Hi everybody. In this first demonstration video, we're going to clean up the income statement for Cinnamon Corporation. On your assignment sheet, you will have embedded a good set of financial statements that you can use as a reference. Choi Company. Here's the income statement for Choi Company. And this income statement looks a lot nicer than the Cinnamon income statement, so we're going to do our best to make Cinnamon income statement look a lot more like the Choi Company income statement. Someone had tried to make this look kind of centered on the page by inserting a couple of extra columns over here. Then they kind of moved the three-line heading over a little bit to sort of make it look centered, but it still really is quite a mess. It's not acceptable to have a whole bunch of unused columns on a financial accounting spreadsheet. So the first thing we're going to do is resize these columns and eliminate the unused columns. This little skinny column has text in it for net income, expenses, and revenues. So I can't delete this little skinny column right now. And somebody had tried to indent the detail of the expenses and the detail of the income by sticking it in another column out here. And that's not a proper way to indent some information on your spreadsheet. So we're going to fix that. The first thing we're going to do is click on fees earned and drag it over to column C. Then I'm going to hold my cursor down, and I'm going to highlight all of the expenses and total expenses, and I'm going to drag them on over to column C. Now it looks terrible because you can't really tell what's expense, what's not. It would look a lot better if it was indented. So we're going to do a proper indentation. We're going to put the cursor on fees income that starts in column C, and we're going to go up here and use this indent feature. We could indent 1, 2, 3. I'm thinking indenting maybe 1 or 2 would be nice. I'll indent 2. Now we don't have to indent each row separately. I can click and highlight all of the expenses and come up here and indent twice. Now we have fees, revenue, and expenses, and the detail under those headings is indented. Yet they all start in the same C column, which is good. Now C column is way too narrow. All these words start in C column, but they all run over, in some cases, D, E, and F columns. And they're still cut off. The columns aren't wide enough to show all the words written. So I'm going to take the C column. I'm coming up here to the top. I'm going to press my left button on my mouse, and I'm going to drag this column out till it's big enough to fit all the words. Well, that looks pretty cool. Now, we still need to get rid of a bunch of columns, but E, F, and G all contain words, and we really don't want the words to start there. So I'm going to highlight and drag all 3 of our lines in our heading over here to begin in column C. Now it's very clear that A, B, D, E, and F columns are all unused columns, and we should get rid of them. I'm going to highlight column A and B together. I'm going to right-click and I'm going to click Delete. Then I'm going to come over here to B, C, and D, right-click, delete. Okay, better. Now, what about this heading? Don't we want that heading to be centered? Yes, we do. So the proper way to center a heading over the body of our income statement is to use the Merge and Center feature. I'm going to click on Cinnamon Corporation, hold my mouse down, and come over until I've highlighted A, B, and C. Click on Merge and Center. And I'm going to do the same thing for the income statement row, Merge and Center, and for the year ended December 31st, Merge and Center. Now our three-line heading is beautifully centered over the body of our income statement. Now let's take a look at the spacing. I like to have a row, a blank row, between the revenue section and the expense section. So I'm going to put my highlight or my cursor on row 7, and I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and click Insert. And I'm going to do the same thing between rent expense and total expenses. Click on row 16, hold the mouse, click on the mouse, and come down the right mouse, and come down and click Insert. Now our spacing is looking pretty good. We're going to need to do something about these horrible formatting of the numbers. There's dollar signs thrown willy-nilly, there's some commas, there's some not commas. Your number formatting should be consistent throughout the spreadsheet. So I'm going to highlight those two columns wherever numbers are going to be, and I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to choose Format Cells, and almost all accounting documents and spreadsheets will be created using the accounting number format. So I'm going to choose accounting. When we're working with financial statements and there's no pennies, you do not want decimal places. So I'm going to make your decimal places 0. And even though I know there should be some dollars to signs in here somewhere, I'm going to leave the symbol blank for now, and I'll show you how to easily put dollar signs in where they need to be. Then I'm going to click OK. Now that cleaned up our number formatting nicely. I'm going to put an underline under the expense detail. I'm going to check and make sure the formula for our total expenses is correct. I've highlighted the number. That is the sum of B9 through B15, so our formula is correct. I'm going to put an underline because of some math function is going to happen. So I'm going to put an underline there. And now net income should be calculated by taking revenue minus expenses. So some people go to the effort of saying equals, etc. You don't have to. All I'm going to do is say plus that number, and I'm going to put in minus on my keyboard that number, and I'm going to say enter. And there it is. Our net income is $64,600. And in financial accounting, on a financial statement, the final number should be double underlined. Now, the last thing that we need to do on this financial statement, I think it's the last thing, is to enter dollar signs. And we are taught to use a dollar sign by the first number in each column and the final answer. So the easiest way to do this is to put the cursor on the first number in a column, the number that you want to have a dollar signs by. Right-click Format Cells, and where the symbol says none, we're going to choose the $sign. But we don't have to do each one of the numbers separately. We can use a nifty feature by highlighting this number that I want a $sign by. It's the first number in the column. And I'm going to hold my Control key down while I highlight my final answer. I want $signs by both of those numbers. Now I'm going to right-click, Format Cells, $sign. OK. And that put in a $sign by both of those numbers. Now, doesn't that look a lot better? And I think the last thing I'm going to do on this spreadsheet is to change the title of the tab. Right now it says Sheet 1. Sheet 1 doesn't make any sense to anybody. I'm going to click on the Sheet 1. I'm going to double-click on Sheet 1 until the words Sheet 1 are highlighted. And then I'm going to put in a more useful name for this spreadsheet. I'm going to call it Income Statement. And our income statement for Choi Company is, Cinnamon Company is much cleaner, much nicer, and resembles the Choi Company example that I've given you. That's all for this video. See you next time.